How many times have you heard, Elle, somebody sharing with you their sincere frustration around having a significant other in their world who just is not being who they need them to be?
Not only have I heard this shared with me many, many times, I definitely have felt that and definitely experienced that myself. 100%.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah. It's quite something. I mean, we when we're younger and we're, deciding to, or dream, we have these hopes and dreams about what it will be like one day to be
hmm
married and to have kids and to, have this beautiful family.
hmm
I don't think many of us think about those moments when
hmm
significant others in our world, uh, are not towing the line like we want them to.
I love it. I'm looking at your face and I'm seeing how carefully you're articulating what
Uh,
you're meaning. Yeah, but it's true, right? How
and
many
for the
times?
listeners out there, I'm sharing on behalf of a friend.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we won't read between any lines. No. No, but we definitely, I think every single person, we wouldn't be being honest with ourselves if we
Yeah,
haven't experienced that, where we felt that the other people, whether it's friends or partners or children or whoever it is in our world, isn't showing up in our world how we want them, how we expect them, how we dreamed they would show up.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. And I think, so what made me think about this for today and to share this week is I think this has kind of been the common theme with quite a
Yeah,
few of the clients I've been working with lately.
yeah,
And as I think
agreed.
I've shared before, it's so bizarre for me how these themes seem to show up in seasons. And so
Yeah.
the theme of the month is, that people come and share their frustration about significant others that,
Mm,
um, yeah, just aren't being filling their cup, I suppose,
yeah,
like they would have hoped for or
yeah,
feel that they need.
yeah.
And I think what I hear when I hear these stories shared, and as you say, what I have felt in my own world too in
Mm,
times like this, is it's so easy to feel like life is unfair and
yeah.
they just don't understand. And, we kind
hmm
of feel like a victim.
Yeah. Kind of feel stuck, trapped.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember one time feeling trapped, thinking, where can I go? What can I do? I just was just like so overwhelmed and
Yeah, well,
feeling of
funny.
stuck.
Yeah, well, funny you share that because one of the clients I've recently spoken to, and I'm sure she won't mind me sharing, she said, Kath, she said, I feel like just getting in my car
Mm,
and just driving off.
yeah.
And I might decide to come back in a month, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might not.
Yeah, I've thought that, and I thought, but where would I drive, Al? Like seriously, where are you going to go? Come on now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think
So,
we can all acknowledge that feeling, and I would say even that uh, not a grief, that might be too, well, sometimes it could be of things that you thought were going to happen or how you imagined it would be. Like I feel like
yeah.
expectations play a big part of this because when it doesn't play out how you thought or hoped or imagined, it can be really quite crushing.
Oh, absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think yeah, so expectations, and it's our own expectations on others.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And we've all experienced being on the other side of that.
Oh yeah,
We've all experienced when others are expecting us to be a certain way
to
and
show
we've
up.
just not,
Mm.
and we like don't want to be like how
No,
they
that's
want us to be.
right.
So it definitely works
Ah.
both ways.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does.
Yeah.
And anywhere there's people, wherever people come together, we're going to experience this. We're all different. We are,
Yeah.
we all have different needs. We all have different character, different personalities. Yet we all have the same six core needs. We all have these same things that keep us together. So it's definitely something that comes up time and time again. And I love that you brought it to the table for us to talk about today, Kath.
Yeah, and in just hearing you share and unpack a bit, what's coming to mind for me is I remember in our coaching training being taught about this well-researched and well-documented
Hmm.
phenomenon called the
Hmm.
drama triangle.
Hmm.
And so whenever there's more than one person, so two
Yeah.
people, and there is this incongruence or difference of opinion or difference of expectation,
Yeah.
how often we can default to playing this game. So I've heard it sort of shared as a game, and the game is the
Right.
game of the drama triangle.
Yeah.
And how it works, just very, very briefly, is so let's just say you and I, as an example,
Okay,
are
perfect.
having a an altercation or just an incongruence or a bit of I might step into feeling like a victim because I
Hmm.
think that's one of the common things we do.
Yeah.
And you might immediately go, oh gosh, no, I don't like that Kat's feeling the victim. So you want to rescue the situation.
Mm.
So the drama triangle, it's a triangle with three positions. So one of the
Hmm.
positions is the rescuer. I
Okay.
mean, sorry, the victim. So if
Yeah.
I'm the victim, you can't also be the victim. So you choose to be the rescuer and you
Okay.
come and rescue the situation. And then part of your rescuing the situation, I recognize that I don't want to be the victim anymore. So I might become what they call the persecutor, or but I'm right in the situation and you were wrong, and it's
Okay.
about this who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah.
And then if I'm sort of shift into that position, now the victim position's open,
So I'll
and you
jump
might
in
then
there.
shift into the victim seat because now I'm sort of saying, well, I was right, you were wrong.
Mm.
Anyway, and the interesting thing is as this has been studied, and if we're aware of this game, it's quite easy to observe it and to notice it and to recognize it
Okay.
when you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And when we were taught this phenomenon, it's kind of like a dance we do. What we were taught was that the moment you recognize you're in this dance or this
Yeah.
triangle,
Hmm.
no one wins. It's
Yeah.
not helpful. And when I hear people share with me, and when I think about in my own world, when I've, been frustrated or felt let down by
Hmm.
others, it's the easiest thing to just step into this drama triangle. And, for me, if it's about me, I step into the victim seat for sure.
Mm.
And if it's
Yeah.
about somebody else, I step into the rescuer
Rescue.
seat.
Yeah.
Rescuer, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I can see that for myself as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
think,
what do we do then? If we
yeah,
can realize, okay, I'm feeling the victim, right? So that's easy for most people to relate to, I guess, right now. If we were to feel like we're the victim in something because the other person's not showing up how we want them to show up, how
yeah,
we perhaps think we need them to show up, how we would
yeah.
love for them to show up. If they're not doing that and we're feeling the victim, that we're stuck in this position, what's the alternative? If we were to look at this research, what does it suggest we do?
Yeah, so interesting. And as I'm hearing you share, I think what we first need to, what's going to be helpful to first talk about before we, I think, step into the alternative is when you feel a victim,
Yeah.
how does that feel,
Mm.
on the inside? And I think what happens for a lot of us, or I certainly relate to this, if I'm feeling the victim, uh, the story in my head starts looping and growing.
Hmm.
And I almost like spiral down into, digging myself a hole of this being the victim.
Yeah.
And then what kind of leaks out of me when I'm
Yeah.
being the victim is not great.
Yeah.
So I'm probably pressing the other person's buttons even more and being really reactive and unreasonable. I mean, I think I've shared before where I realize sometimes I've experienced words coming out of my mouth that it's almost like I so badly want them to come out, but when they come out, I think, oh, Kath, that
Oh,
sounds terrible.
yeah.
Like,
Did you
stop
really just
it.
say that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what's helpful is to just pause for a moment and reflect on how that feels when you're in your body,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think many of us can relate to the feeling of feeling a victim and
Yeah.
what that feels like. And so part of the, what can we do about this? Part of it is a logical thinking, oh, okay, is there something else we can do? What is that? But I think part of it is also recognizing how we feeling and what's
Yeah.
happening in our body, how we're being. And in coaching terms, we call that a state. You know,
Yeah.
the victim state, the state of
Hmm.
your being is not great. Like, how can we shift the state?
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful to consider both because sometimes depending on how you're wired and where you are in your world right now,
Mm.
some people will find it much easier to shift state first,
Yeah.
and some people will find it actually easier the other way around to start with your thinking and the
Yeah.
logic and the
Yeah.
reasoning and the understanding part.
No, that makes sense. I've certainly can see how sometimes putting on a different state for a time helps you to think better, but then sometimes changing your thoughts naturally gives you a bit of a different state. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the other thing here too is I love that you touched on acknowledging where we're at because it's not about denying or
yeah,
ignoring or sweeping it under the carpet. It's getting real with, okay, what am I feeling? And what is really going on here? Because those things are they're real. That's the current
yeah.
reality. And I think sometimes we just want to, for me, sometimes I just want to fix it. Go, okay, this is what
Oh,
I'm at,
yeah.
and I just want to fix it. Just get to the and in doing that, I haven't really been true to what's actually going on. So I think it's important, whether it's just with ourselves, sitting down and really unpacking, okay, what am I experiencing? Where am I feeling this? What are my thoughts at this time? Or it could be sharing it with a friend or a trusted other person to really understand. Because there's nothing worse than just sweeping stuff away. And then the next time we come around to feeling the victim again, the previous experience, everything comes back and we're in an even worse position.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you shared that because I think I read once in a book that, and the metaphor is sweeping it under the carpet.
Mm.
If you sweep something under the carpet once or twice, you don't really notice
Mm.
it. But if you keep sweeping things under the carpet, you actually end up with this little hump under the carpet that you keep
Yes.
tripping over. And I thought that's such a fantastic metaphor.
It is.
So you are so right, and I think it's to ask that question, like, what for?
Mm.
We have this other saying in coaching that the problem's never the problem.
Yeah.
You know, so if we're feeling the victim in the situation, it is to stop and go, what for? Like, what's actually
Mm.
going on here?
Mm.
Um, is it really the thing that's in front of you that's frustrating you, or is there
Yeah.
something potentially else going on?
Yeah.
And
That's a great
sometimes there is,
question.
and sometimes there isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What for? I haven't really thought about that. That's a great question to ask. Okay. Well, what for?
Yeah.
I'm not
And
sure.
in the moment when you're in it, it's again, coming back to how we're feeling when we're in that state of being the victim. That
Mm.
state is a very unresourceful state. So it's hard when you're in that state to sometimes unpack and
Yeah, it is.
think, and because we're so focused on how unfair life is, or
Yeah,
how,
and justifying it,
yeah.
justifying that it's unfair because it sometimes really is unfair.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what can we do about it? Well, I think the
Hmm.
first thing, if you're listening to this, is you know, recognizing that this is normal.
Yes.
We are all human. Uh, if you're feeling this way and you're frustrated by external things, others, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, or
Mm-mm-mm.
you've got to just pull yourself together.
Mm.
It's, as you said, it's real, it's normal.
Mm.
And rather than sort of asking or going to that place of, is this right or wrong? Or
Mm.
am I good and bad? Because
Yeah.
I used to do that in the
Yeah.
past. And then that just meant just a heap of judgment on myself, which
Yeah.
wasn't
And
helpful.
the other person or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
situation.
yeah,
Yes.
judging the situation.
Yeah.
So I've got one of my coach trainers' voices right in my ear now, and I can actually hear him saying this. He would say, what if it's not the right question? Well,
Mm.
not a helpful question to ask, is this right or wrong or good or bad? A much more resourceful question to ask is, how is this serving me right now?
Mm.
Like, is this working for me to
Mm.
to be in this victim seat, or be the rescuer, like just want to fix it all, or is this really working,
Yeah.
or is it not working?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a helpful question
Mm. My
because,
my
yeah,
question that I often ask myself, or when I'm working with others, is just, is it helpful?
yeah, yeah,
Is this helpful? Is it helpful to you? Is it helpful to the other? Is it helpful to the situation? And then the
yeah,
moment you sort of go, because we can justify it, we can
yeah,
do everything else, but is it helpful? And is it getting what we want? Really? What's the ultimate? And so,
yeah.
yeah, I
And I
find,
love that question, is it helpful? Because I mean, in reality, I mean, we know if you're in the drama triangle, nobody wins. So most commonly, the answer to that question is actually no, this is
it's not
not
how
that helpful.
helpful. Okay.
And I love because that kind of leads into the next question, which you could ask, which is, okay, well, if anything is going to be helpful right now, what could be
What?
helpful?
Mm, that's right.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
love what that does because it shifts us out of the focus of, justifying
Victim.
why and
Hmm.
why this is real. And you're not, by asking, is this helpful? You're also not sweeping it under the carpet.
Mm-mm.
You're becoming curious.
Mm. And that's
And
where
but
hope
yeah,
is. That's where
yeah.
ideas and creativity and possibilities come into it.
Yeah, and in actual fact, I remember when we were taught the drama triangle, and I won't unpack the whole thing today, but for each of the three different positions, they also taught us what's the alternative. So instead of being the victim, and the alternative is moving into that creative space,
Yeah,
being
wow.
creative and
Yeah.
thinking to yourself, well, okay, how else can I be right now?
Mm.
Which leads us to, what's helpful for me right now to change my state.
Yeah.
I know for me, quite often it's throwing on a pair of shoes and getting outside and going for a good walk, or picking up the phone and phoning somebody,
Yes.
not to
Just
rehash,
vent it all. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm.
but to kind of say, look, I'm not
Mm.
helping myself here. You mind if I just share and talk this through? And I've got, as you said, that takes us back to that. Who have you got in your world? Who are those five people that
Yeah.
that they're going to actually help you
Yeah.
by you sharing, and they're not going to just be the victim with you and justify with you.
Yeah, there are key people in my mind that I think, okay, I definitely wouldn't call them because they would just jump on my bandwagon and we, dig ourselves even deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
so
So,
good.
I think the reality and the big takeaway here is it's gonna happen. We are gonna feel like our expectations haven't been met,
Yeah.
that life's unfair, that we've been
Yeah.
wrongly,
Hmm.
treated. It is
Hmm.
going to happen. And the,
Mm.
the question is, how do we want to be when that happens?
Yeah.
Who can we talk to? And how do we just ask that question, beautiful question? Yeah, what will be helpful right now?
Yeah.
And everyone's answer is going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm just thinking about it. There's such a that question, what would be helpful right now, automatically, for me, there's just a piece in that
yeah,
when we start to go, okay, what could I do right now that will be helpful? And
yeah,
and it's still again addressing some of our needs and some, it's addressing us and our situation without feeling stuck and feeling the victim. It's looking forward. It's helping us to live, brave, strong, and fulfilled, and doing what we can do. Because we always talk about, go where the life is. That question, what is helpful right now?
yeah.
Absolutely takes us towards life.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And the beauty in that is the moment you can see hope,
Yeah.
uh, you do shift into a more peaceful state. And when you
Yeah.
are more peaceful, then it, then approaching the conversation with the other person from that way of being
Mm.
is going to be much more helpful than the reactive words that come out when you're in the bottom of the victim hole, you
Yeah.
know. And I think there's wisdom in knowing in timing and knowing yourself. Like, if, I
Mm.
know myself, and I kind of know when I'm not going to help myself in the situation because I'm just not in that space, and I'm just going to, be unreasonable. And I know what it feels like to feel different and to feel like, oh, I've given myself some space. I've
Yeah.
given myself, I've gone for a walk. I've called a friend. I feel so much better, and I feel like I have access to being a bit more reasonable
Yeah.
in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to what I read once in that book about sweeping things under the carpet, I think part of what's going to be helpful often does require a conversation.
Yeah.
It does require addressing something that
Yeah.
whatever's going on underneath the surface. So it's definitely a finding a solution to whatever it is that's caused you to, you know,
Yeah.
be in that victim place.